And a good morning to you once more, Lagos. You're tuned in and listening to Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. It is 45 minutes gone past 6. We are officially inside of Business Express, which today is brought to you by Stanbic. And we've got Rotus in the building. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Folu, Lagos. Good morning. Welcome back to work, everybody.
Exactly. Welcome. Welcome.
Yes,
it's okay.
indeed.
The weekend is tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, you guys will make it. You'll make it. Okay.
Join us in conversations at #BusinessExpress981 while you're up on Twitter to send in your comments and questions. And of course, you can also do that by tweeting, by sending it to us on our WhatsApp number. It's 0809-444-0981. Last but not least, we're streaming live on YouTube right now. So head to YouTube and search for Smooth at 981 FM Lagos.
All right. So, Folu, we're continuing our discussion on transparency. Yesterday, of course, we talked about mutual funds and how a lot of mutual funds had been moving from equities to fixed income. Exactly. Yeah. One of the reasons was transparency. And since this is brought to you by Stanbic, I should remind people that when I mentioned the top 7 performing mutual funds for the half-year period, Stanbic does have the number 1 performer, the Stanbic IBTC Pension ETF 40.
Yeah.
And also, in fact, they have 2 funds on this list. So that the number 1 fund and number 7 is the Stanbic IBTC 30 ETF fund. I did go to their website, and Stanbic does actually have allocation where these mutual funds are being invested. Right.
Okay.
So which is a good thing. But we are people still like, hey, look, we still want to see, tell us exactly which stocks are putting funds in. Yeah, real specific. So, but good stuff, good performance there from Stanbic. So we're going to move now to public institutions with 2 particular institutions that are of focus. Well, actually, one is public institution, the other is a state. The first one is the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So there's a body called the MRA, which is the Media Rights Agenda. They're an institution, a non-government institution that is actually focuses on implementation of the Freedom of Information Act, which was signed in 2000 into law in 2011 under the Goodluck Jonathan administration. Right. So last year in July of 2017, they launched something called the Hall of Shame, which is which is a flip on the Hall of Fame, and they inducted the stock exchange. They inducted the Nigerian Stock Exchange
into the Hall of Shame.
Yeah, they did, and I was taken aback. I was what's going on? Because the stock exchange, they have corporate disclosures.
Yeah.
They show financials from corporations when a company is doing a corporate action like paying dividends. They put it up there. But what MRA is saying, and if you guys want to check out their Twitter handle, is at MRA_Nigeria. You guys can check out their handle there where they listed all the according to them, the violations of the Freedom of Information Act by the stock exchange. So there's what they're saying here is that the stock exchange itself is supposed to disclose more information about its actions and practices. So in particular, I actually have to go look up the Freedom of Information Act. I downloaded it and printed it. It's about 10 pages if you're interested. Anybody out there, like 30 different sections. But specifically, they mentioned 3 sections: Section 2, Section 13, and Section 29 of the Freedom of Information Act. So with regard to Section 2, there's a information there that refers to the NSC and other public institutions designating a particular individual, showing their title and their position, that is supposed to receive requests from the public. So if you or I want information on the NSC on its website is supposed to say, okay, look, Mr. or Mrs. this person is in charge of receiving requests from the public. On the there's no such thing. They don't have that. Also, in fact, the NSC's website makes no mention of the Freedom of Information Act at all. So they call them out on that regard. Section 13, they're supposed to be, it requires that the public institutions train their workers on the Freedom of Information Act and state that there as well. That's also missing. And then I think most crucially here, Section 29 is the submission of reports. So what they're asking for, the Freedom of Information Act is asking for in Section 29, is that every year every public institution is supposed to submit an annual report to, I believe, the Secretary of Federation or so every year, in order to state how they have complied from year to year with the act. So again, that also has not been disclosed by the NSC, and so there's a number of times this thing is
fascinating, and of course because the average Nigerian is probably not aware that this is what's supposed to be happening. So it's really called them up on this,
exactly,
which is why they're now in this hall of shame.
Exactly. I mean, it's the Attorney General of the Federation. That's who they're supposed to submit the report. And so I mean, even me, I mean, I was pretty ignorant of this. I just thought, hey, the NSC is doing its job, it's disclosing everything about companies, but this is about the NSC itself. In fact, there's even I think another section calls for them to disclose all their employees plus salaries and a number of things, you know. So transparency is a real it's a big thing. It's a big thing. So
I like that. I like that this is coming to light, because I mean, you know, people perish for lack of knowledge at the end of the day.
Very true.
And we tend to accept the barest minimum of what's being done and go, oh, you're doing such a great job.
Exactly.
No, there's more you should be doing.
There is more. And
do you think they will take action on this?
They actually did. The funny enough, and the second person on this list is Lagos State, unfortunately. But
we've been fighting Lagos State
on that. Yes. Yeah. So the NSC, they came out. I think there was a case from last year. A certain individual invested some funds with a company that wasn't under their purview, wasn't registered by the NSC, and they tried to get information on that particular company because the individual lost some money. The NSC said, hey, look, Freedom of Information Act doesn't apply to us, so a court actually, I think a court in Aruoture or somewhere came and said, no, that's not true. It does apply to you, and you should provide this information. So again, it's at MRA_Nigeria. Check out their list of violations that they say the stock exchange is responsible for. On to Lagos State. Their case is with Premium Times. So Premium Times had I think, did you guys mention that earlier this week? Lagos State still has not released information on its education budget. So budgets, I believe, and another non-government institution, they submitted a request to the state of Lagos to say, hey, look, I think they got about a $90 million loan or so from the World Bank in order to improve education. Secondary schools, primary schools are still overcrowded. There's still a lot of fund development there that needs to be done. And they're saying, hey, look, we want you guys to release your reports on how the breakdown of your education spending between 2012 and 2015. Lagos State did the similar thing to the NSC. They said that, hey, look, you know, this doesn't apply to us. And what they said was that their National Assembly has to localize the law. So that they have to pass a similar law at the state level in order for them to comply with the Freedom of Information Act. And what budget and a number of folks, including Premium Time, was saying, that say, hey, look, this isn't actually correct. You should actually be complying with this law and breaking down, you know, how the spending is going through. Also, with regards to revenue, the Lagos State's revenue, how it's been received, how it's been spent, that also has not been released. So here's something very interesting, and we're going to talk about this on Tech Friday tomorrow. So there's a company that has to do with lending. I think it's Mint or so. I have to make sure about it. One of the team members for that company, they raised about $13 million in funding, which they want to use for Nigerians to access loans. And we'll talk about it tomorrow on Tech Friday. But one of the team members is in a WhatsApp group that I'm a member of, and so somebody posted a picture of her on a TV publication where they were interviewing her about the funding raise. Now the TV program hadn't released the segment yet. They hadn't posted the Twitter handle, and I didn't know what name it was, and I asked the person, they didn't answer me. So I went to Google the name of the TV station to look for the interview, right? This was before she told me that the interview wasn't ready. I now found an interview with Dr. Yemi Kale, who is the statistician general for the Bureau of Statistics. He had an interview with them. So I was like, oh, okay, I hadn't seen this. I think it was like last week or so. So get this, they're talking to him about, GDP expectations for Q2. They're talking to him about unemployment, a number of economic things. One of the hosts now asked him, like, sir, Lagos State has been saying that if Lagos was a country, it would have the 5th largest GDP in Africa. I think we've heard this before, that the GDP is very So she now asked him, she was like, and I'll tweet the interview, you guys can check it out later on. She now asked him, sir, do you think this is true? He said, I don't know, but we'll go over when we do the GDP breakdown for the states, we'll find out. So the Bureau of Statistics, the MBS, they have like 11 states they are working with. They want to now start doing GDP for states individually. So we've always had GDP at the country level, right?
Okay.
interestingly enough, and he said this on the interview, he said that Lagos State was initially was supposed to work with the Bureau of Statistics to release their own GDP, and they backed out. Lagos backed out, and Lagos, by the way, has its own Bureau of Statistics at the state level.
Yes.
So they were like, look, we're supposed to be working with their own people, figure out their GDP figures, and they backed out. So what they did is they replaced them with Ogun State. So they're gonna. But he said, look, you can't hide this info. What they're going to do is this, and it was pretty clever. It makes logical sense. They're going to hopefully get GDP for all the other 35 states in the country. Yeah. Now subtract that number. Exactly. Subtract that number from the national level, and we'll find out what Lagos is. So it's a little.
Maybe Lagos just like, we actually have quite a lot. Maybe
the
federal government may want to step in here. We don't want to reveal these numbers.
I don't know what the problem is, but from not revealing figures to not wanting to release GDP figures, Lagos State, I don't know whether it's hype or a lot of these figures are overhyped or what the issue is, but it's a little troubling. It's a little troubling. So again, we shouldn't just be focusing on private institutions, mutual funds. Yeah, at the public state level as well, we have a transparency issue in the country, and it's something that needs to be addressed.
All right, a few messages that have come through. Thank you very much for all that information, Rotus. Yinka says, listen, whole of shame kwa. The other day, files the bad guy asked NNPC to provide information on crude proceeds and all that. Did he get it? They told him that the so-called Freedom of Information Act doesn't apply to
everybody. Keeps saying this.
And since then, the people have on the Iron Throne there in Aruoture appointed them, reprimanded anyone in NNPC. So Rotus cut these ones. Also release GDP for Lagos Care just like that. You will have to get body love to get that information. Just my take. While Rainmaker says transparency is a tall order for public officers and government agencies. We have a federal law that states is abstaining from. How can a state say that she's not part of the laws of the federation? Such a state shouldn't get the federal allocation.
Right.
Shebi, they're now selecting which one they are part of.
Rainmaker, thank you for that message.
And Henry Emmanuel says to think that bright folks like Rotus and Folu pay tax to Lagos State, yet they refuse to be transparent.
It's a problem. It's a problem.
And Bankimo says GDP for the states. Nice.
Yeah, so Banky, everything is GDP for the states, unemployment for the states. MBS has now released inflation for the states as well. So we need to break all these things down to state level to see how things are going on.
But Osama says the NSC is limited by guarantee. It is not a public institution.
I disagree, Osama. We're going to have to look at the NSC. It is a public institution that's supposed to display. Unless I've run out of time.
We've run out of time.
I'm buying shares. Where will I get my information from?
We'll come back to that. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much, Rotus.
All
Everyone who wants to catch up, you can go to our YouTube channel and catch you. Next, there was some interesting information and some great music. And of course, at 7:30, our flagship segment, detailed newspaper analysis inside of Freshly Pressed. Good morning.
So you guys are still, you bring Lagos